This is the story of a boy living in a dream. His name is Kita Imezumi. One day after school, Rina Hamasaki, a girl he had never spoken to before, suddenly approached him out of the blue. Together with her classmates, Ruri Kurumizaka and Yukina Sasaki, they started coming over to his house. Eventually, Kita realized that his house had become their regular hangout spot. Day by day, the three girls grew physically and emotionally closer to him. Then, about a month earlier, they crossed a line. Today, Kita is having lunch with his friends. As he heads out, the three girls bid him farewell. After he leaves, they start talking about him, mentioning his killer smile. Following a playful and somewhat pointless debate about Kita's smile, Yukina decides to head home for lunch. Kurumizaka leaves as well, saying she needs to grab some clothes from her place. Meanwhile, Hamasaki doesn't have anything in particular to do, so she stays behind at Kita's house. Kita had spicy ramen for lunch. When the heat hit him, his friends noticed his reaction and all thought the same thing. He's so cute, so adorable. He could even make another guy fall for him. Murayama accidentally blurted out that he wasn't manly at all. The comment hit Kita hard, and seeing his change in expression, the friend quickly apologized. While walking home alone, Kita remembered his father telling him to learn from his older brother, Kaikiro. At the time, he didn't understand what his father meant, but his brother had told him to act more like a man. As he continued walking, his brother's words echoed loudly in his mind, "Be more like a man." When Kita arrived home, Hamasaki was there. She noticed the troubled look on his face and managed to seduce him into sharing what was on his mind. He confessed that his friend, Murayama, hadn't meant any harm, but his comment about Kita not being manly had hit him hard and left him feeling down. Finally, he asked Hamasaki if she thought he wasn't manly at all. Hamasaki remembered the first time she paid attention to Kita. One day, she forgot her notebook in class and went back to retrieve it. As she approached the classroom, she overheard some of her classmates talking about her. They called her a slut, claiming she slept around, and one even wondered if she'd sleep with him if he asked. Then they asked Kita for his opinion. Kita's response surprised her. He said he didn't believe Hamasaki was that kind of person. His classmates laughed at him, teasing that his attitude was why he was still a virgin. But Kita responded with calm, thoughtful words. It was fine to make fun of him, but talking behind a girl's back like that wasn't okay. His response only made them mock him further, but it left a strong impression on Hamasaki. Back in the present, Hamasaki wondered what it truly meant to be manly. While she was well aware of Kita's cute and adorable appearance, she couldn't deny that his behavior was incredibly manly. The way he managed to handle all three girls at once only proved how manly he really was. And so his story with the three-girl and a special relationship began. At school, Kita and the three girls continued their lives while keeping their relationship a secret. One day, the girls discussed how they should behave at school to avoid suspicion. Kurumizaka was particularly worried that their relationship might be discovered by the school, and the news could even reach Kita's parents. Hamasaki shared her concerns too, adding that Kita's parents had left him to live alone so he could become more independent and manly. Yet here he was, living with three girls. She joked that his parents might actually praise him for managing so well. Yukina disagreed, thinking Hamasaki had it wrong. She argued that even if Kita's parents didn't object to their arrangement, other problems could arise, like Kita being forced to stop living on his own. Despite their conflicting opinions and somewhat irrational worries, they all agreed to keep their situation a secret at school. During the school lunch break, the three girls had lunch together. Hamasaki and Yukina were jealous of Kurumizaka, who had the seat next to Kita in class. Hamasaki accused her of pulling strings behind the scenes to make Kita sit beside her. Kurumizaka firmly denied it, but her indifference only annoyed the other two more. Hamasaki and Yukina warned that if Kurumizaka continued to sit next to Kita, it might spark a war between them. However, Kurumizaka didn't seem to care, brushing off their complaints. The playful bickering escalated between the girls until Kita arrived. Kita apologized for being late, explaining that a friend had stopped him to ask where he usually ate lunch. Now that she thought about it, Yukina realized they had been having lunch together more often recently. She suggested they limit how often they ate together each week and reduce their time spent together to avoid raising suspicion at school. Lunch ended, but Kita hadn't even touched his food. He had been too busy pleasing the three girls. In class, Kurumizaka raised her hand and told the teacher she had forgotten her textbook. She requested permission to share with Kita. The teacher agreed as long as Kita was okay with it. When Kita didn't mind with that, Kurumizaka moved her seat closer, sitting right next to him. With the two of them now so close, Kurumizaka began to playfully tease him. Kita, trying to avoid causing a scene, politely refused by secretly writing messages in his textbook for her to stop. However, she was persistent and wouldn't back down. Kita glanced at Hamasaki and Yukina, hoping they might help. Unfortunately, both girls were fast asleep at their desks, having dozed off shortly after sitting down. With no one to rescue him, Kita was left helpless against Kurumizaka's antics until he was completely worn out. Kurumizaka was assigned the task of collecting all the students' textbooks and bringing them to the staff room. It was a large stack and seemed heavy, so Kita offered to help carry them for her. Kurumizaka was grateful for his help, but something about the situation bothered her. She wondered if carrying all those textbooks by himself was what it meant to be manly. Kita thought it might be, but Kurumizaka laughed at his response. To her, what he was doing wasn't manly, it was kind. Kita didn't dwell on her comment, though. As they climbed the stairs, he don't think there was anything funny to laugh about those kind of efforts. His words seemed to strike a chord with her. She reassured him that he didn't need to force himself to be manly. Instead, she promised to help him become the best version of himself, a man who was confident and proud. Then, Kurumizaka grabbed his arm and told him to escort her to the staff room. Kita hesitated, worrying that someone might see them walking together, but Kurumizaka didn't seem to care at all. A few days before, Yukina Sasaki's older brother lectured her about relationships. He kept giving her advice she didn't want, so she told him that if he kept it up, she'd do the exact opposite of whatever he said. Her brother was persistent, though. He warned her that if she didn't even like a guy but ended up sleeping with him, she'd eventually fall for him just to convince herself she wasn't easy. Yukina doubted him, but he insisted he knew what he was talking about, claiming that's how he managed to attract women. Now Yukina had a date with Kita. They planned to watch a movie together. She didn't dwell on her brother's words, she was just enjoying her time with Kita and her other relationships with other girls. As they walked together, Kita's mind drifted. He remembered that Hamasaki and Kurumizaka weren't home, so he and Sasaki decided to go out and watch a movie. He was well aware that Sasaki was also a magazine model, just like Hamasaki. It all started when Hamasaki's older sister posted a picture of Sasaki on Instagram, which caught the attention of magazine scouts. When Kita first heard about it, he thought it was great for her. Now looking at her closely, he realized just how beautiful she really was. Yet sometimes when he was alone with Sasaki, he felt a strange loneliness. Even now, walking beside her, it felt a bit uncomfortable. There were moments when he couldn't shake the feeling that a wall stood between them. While lost in thought, Kita slowed his pace without knowing it. Sasaki grabbed his hand, telling him he was walking too slowly. He apologized and quickened his steps, still holding her hand. Now that he thought about it, maybe he was just overthinking everything. They enjoyed their time together, treating themselves to a nice meal, shopping, and finally watching a movie. As Kita returned with popcorn ready for the movie to start, Sasaki told him to go ahead while she went to the restroom. Standing in front of the mirror, she looked at her reflection and silently blamed herself. Every time Kita smiled at her, she felt a tingling sensation she couldn't ignore. She wondered if it was because it was just the two of them on this date, or if it was because they had already slept together, just as her brother had warned. She found it hard to believe how much her heart was racing. When Sasaki returned to the theater lounge, she found Kita waiting for her. She scolded him, reminding him that she had told him to go ahead. But with a cute smile, he explained that since they came to the movie together, he thought she might feel sad if he left her alone. Although Sasaki acted annoyed, deep down she was glad he had waited for her. As they watched the movie, her brother's words echoed in her mind. She started to believe she really might fall in love with Kita. Glancing at him, she noticed he was crying at an emotional scene. Without thinking, she grabbed his hand. At that moment, she realized that even if what her brother said was true, she didn't mind at all. One day, Kita checked his balance at an ATM and felt a bit sad when he saw the low number. When he got home, he found the three girls hanging out at his place. As he entered, he quickly apologized because Kurumizaka was changing clothes. The girls teased him as usual, but they noticed something was off. Kita looked sad, which was unusual. Kita admitted that he only had 3,000 yen to survive for the next 20 days. Sasaki thought for a moment and pointed out that since the girls often spent time at his place, it likely increased his living expenses. The other girls hadn't considered this before, but now they realized the situation was serious. They offered to contribute 10,000 yen each per month to help, but Kita politely declined, saying he would feel bad accepting their money. Hamasaki insisted that Kita show them his bank passbook. After checking it, they realized his finances were even worse than they expected. Utility bills, like water and electricity, had gone up much higher than usual. The girls again pushed the idea of Hamasaki and Sasaki contributing 10,000 yen each to help cover the living costs. For food and daily necessities, Hiromizaka offered to handle it. Hiromizaka then made a bold move. She handed Kita her prepaid card and told him to use it however he liked. Kita immediately rejected the offer, saying it was too much for him to handle. The trust she placed in him felt overwhelming, but the girls refused to take no for an answer. Hamasaki and Sasaki were confident in Hiromizaka's financial stability. After all, she was the daughter of a major cosmetics company president. Not only did she assist with the company's work, but she also designed hit cosmetic products aimed at high school students and younger audiences. She was a genius at creating popular items. For Hiromizaka, covering all their living expenses was as effortless as taking a bucket of water from the ocean. Hamasaki and Sasaki praised her, marveling at how she wasn't just an ordinary high school student, she had an aura that set her apart. Hamasaki even joked that her maturity made her look like a 30-year-old veteran. In the end, Kita had no choice but to accept their offer. From that day on, Hiromizaka accompanied Kita whenever he went shopping or paid for anything. She never let him spend his own money, insisting on covering all the costs herself. While this kept Kita's wallet safe, it began to bother him. He felt like a burden and decided to return Hiromizaka's prepaid card. However, when he tried to give it back, Hiromizaka flatly refused. Instead, she warned him that she would punish him if he insisted. Hamasaki and Sasaki arrived at Kita's house to find Hiromizaka making him wear a female school uniform. When Hamasaki questioned what was going on, Hiromizaka explained that it was Kita's punishment for trying to return her prepaid card. She decided to make him cross-dress as part of the punishment. Sasaki then came up with an idea, to add makeup as well. Excited by the suggestion, the three girls eagerly went along with it. Kita felt extremely embarrassed, dressed in the girl's uniform with makeup on his face and his hair styled like a girl's. Despite his protests, the girls ignored him, completely amazed by how convincing and pretty he looked. As always, they started teasing and playing around with him, laughing at his reactions. Eventually, they got hungry and decided to go out for dinner. Kita was relieved, thinking he could finally change out of the uniform, but Hamasaki quickly dismissed the idea, insisting he go out in the outfit to join them for dinner. Kita tried to refuse the idea, but Hamasaki convinced him that no one would recognize him as a man in that outfit. She then gave him a nonsensical argument, claiming that to be manly, he needed to be good with women, and to be good with women, he had to understand their feelings. To do that, she urged him to start cross-dressing and walking around the city. Even though her reasoning made no sense, Kita reluctantly went along with it, trying his best to become manly. The girls had already changed their clothes and were ready to go. They waited in front of Kita's apartment door on the second floor of the building. Without Kita or the girls noticing, Kita's older brother, Keiichiro, and his girlfriend, Mayumi, arrived on the road below the apartment. When Keiichiro looked up at the second floor where Kita's apartment was, he was shocked to see so many girls there. Mayumi teased him for looking ridiculous, but Keiichiro didn't care. He was more concerned about what was happening to his brother. It was too much for him to process. He couldn't help but wonder if the girls were taking advantage of Kita. Knowing his brother's inability to refuse others, he suspected they had turned the apartment into their hangout spot. Determined to find out what was going on, Keiichiro decided to follow them. However, without either of them realizing, they were also being followed by someone they didn't know. Her name was Satsumi Mary, a devoted servant of Hiromizaka. She had met her queen a few years before during a tumultuous period in her life. Back then, Mary couldn't control her destructive impulses and would hunt down delinquents to satisfy those urges. Everything changed the day she encountered Hiromizaka. Hiromizaka simply stood there, staring at her with mesmerizing eyes that seemed to pull her in completely. In that moment, Mary felt her destructive impulses subside, replaced by an overwhelming sense of calm. From then on, instead of seeking destruction, Mary dedicated herself to earning the rewards her queen would bestow. This marked the beginning of her daily struggle to gain Hiromizaka's favor. That day, after a long time without receiving her queen's blessings, Mary was determined to prove herself worthy again. She secretly followed Keiichiro and Mayumi, who were tailing Kita and the three girls, including her queen, Hiromizaka. Inside the restaurant, Kita was having dinner with the girls while still wearing the female school uniform. The girls continued to tease him, treating him like one of them, but despite his embarrassment, Kita thought they were all having fun. The teasing escalated into a playful argument over who was the best fit to be by Kita's side. In the middle of their debate, the waitress arrived with their dishes. Hirumizaka suddenly asked the waitress for her opinion, asking if she looked best with Kita. The waitress, startled, stammered before nervously agreeing as Hirumizaka gently grabbed her hands while she set the plates on the table. Moments later, Hirumizaka received a phone call from Mary, who informed her that they were being watched by a couple. Mary asked what she should do, and Hirumizaka instructed her to bring the couple to her. Meanwhile, Mayumi was uneasy about following Kita and suggested to Keiichiro that they leave him alone. However, Keiichiro refused, distracted by Kita's outfit. He admitted he thought Kita looked surprisingly good in girls' clothes. As their conversation took a strange turn, Maris suddenly approached them, knocking them both unconscious. Without hesitation, she hoisted them over her shoulders and ran toward Hirumizaka. Keiichiro soon came face to face with Kita and the girls. As both he and Mayumi tried to process what was happening, Hirumizaka greeted him confidently. She already knew he was Kita's older brother. Keiichiro was taken aback and asked how she knew about him. Hirumizaka allowed Mary to explain. Mary revealed that, a few days earlier, she had noticed Keiichiro and Mayumi lurking around Kita's apartment. Suspicious of their intentions, she decided to follow them and conduct a background check, just in case. Sasaki and Hamasaki were stunned, finding it hard to believe that Hirumizaka would have gone so far as to instruct Mary to do such a thing. They all ended up sitting together. Keiichiro accused the girls of forcing Kita to wear the outfit. Hamasaki admitted they had pushed him to try it, but insisted it was all consensual in the end, which Kita nervously confirmed. However, Keiichiro wasn't convinced, suspecting that Kita couldn't express his true feelings. Before Keiichiro could finish his thought, Kita interrupted with a stammer, saying it was all part of a game. He explained that he wanted everyone to stay at his place, and they had promised him that if he went out dressed as a girl, he'd receive a reward. Hamasaki playfully held Kita's head and body like a doll, confirming his statement that he would indeed get a reward if he complied. Keiichiro grew angry, seeing his brother reduced to what he felt was a joke for the girls' amusement. Hirumizaka brought up how Kita's parents had kicked him out of the house and directly asked Keiichiro if he agreed with their decision. She pressed further, pointing out that while Keiichiro had a reputation for being manly, he hadn't stood up to their parents. She reminded him of the day Kita started living with her and the other girls, noting how Keiichiro had protested back then. Hirumizaka added that Kita, living with 3 girls at once, was arguably more manly than any guy she had ever met. Then, leaning in close, she whispered to Keiichiro that Kita now belonged to her and her friends. If Keiichiro wanted to take him back, he'd have to be ready for a fight. Intimidated, Keiichiro couldn't hide his fear of her. Meanwhile, Kita begged his brother not to tell their father about the situation. This shocked Keiichiro, as he had never seen Kita plead like this before. As Kita kept his head down in desperation, the 3 girls glared at Keiichiro like predators, making their stance clear. Keiichiro relented. He promised to keep quiet about everything for the time being and left with his pride shaken. Before he left, Hirumizaka casually offered to exchange phone numbers, and he hesitantly agreed. As Keiichiro walked away, Kita felt relieved that his brother had forgiven him. Hamasaki smugly commented on how easy their victory had been, but Sasaki disagreed, thinking that Hirumizaka wouldn't stop at just this. Hirumizaka herself reflected on how unexpected the outcome was. She hadn't imagined she'd be able to recruit a member of the Imezumi family so effortlessly. She had even been prepared for a fight if necessary. Watching her, Hamasaki and Sasaki couldn't help but think that Hirumizaka sometimes acted like a total freak. One night, Kita was too exhausted to keep playing. He had to stop, but the 3 girls were still at it, except for Yukina Sasaki. Rain and Hamasaki demanded that Kita should keep playing with them more, and Kita agreed and promised to do his best. At school, Kita asked his friends Iguchi and Maruyama for help to improve his physical fitness. Iguchi was curious about Kita's sudden motivation and wondered if he had been inspired by watching sports on TV. Kita shyly admitted that it was somewhat true. Maruyama thought Kita wanted a body like his, ripped and muscular, but Iguchi disagreed. The two began bickering, and during their argument, Maruyama asked Kita what kind of body he wanted. Kita wasn't sure and began to drift in thought. Iguchi chimed in with examples, suggesting different body types, focusing on instantaneous power, maintaining a balance between instantaneous power and endurance, or focusing solely on endurance. Iguchi offered advice based on Kita's choice, and after a moment of thought, Kita shyly admitted that he wanted a balance of both instantaneous power and endurance. Maruyama and Iguchi were curious as to why Kita looked shy again. With Iguchi's advice in mind, Kita resolved to commit to training his body. Not only would he focus on exercise, but he also knew he would need to eat a lot to support his progress. Kita arrived home and saw Kurumizaka entering his house. He asked her about Reina Hamasaki and Yukina Sasaki. Kurumizaka said that they were probably jogging around the neighborhood. Kita was curious about jogging and asked if they did it to maintain their body shape. Kurumizaka confirmed that it was partly true. She added that both of them had played basketball until middle school, so they likely enjoyed staying active. Kita was surprised to learn this. Kurumizaka continued, sharing that when they were in their third year of middle school, their basketball team was so strong that they made it to the semifinals in the national championship. She noted that Reina and Yukina were especially skilled players. Kurumizaka brought up that Reina was selected as the best basketball player in the country and that she was their manager at the time. Kita wondered why, if they were so talented, they hadn't joined the basketball club in high school. Kurumizaka explained that during the semifinals, Yukina had gotten injured. Kita asked if it was the Achilles tendon she sometimes mentioned. Kurumizaka confirmed that it was. She added that Yukina had likely wanted to continue playing basketball in high school, but the doctor warned her that if she kept playing, her Achilles tendon would continue to tear and re-tear. As a result, she chose to quit playing basketball. After Kurumizaka finished telling the story, Reina and Yukina arrived. Reina informed Kita that Yukina was getting better, which made Kurumizaka happy to hear. Kita then made a request. He wanted to join them for jogging starting the day after. Reina questioned if he was serious about joining them. Kita was determined and explained that he wanted to build his strength. Reina acknowledged his determination and agreed to jog together with him the day after. The next day, Kita joined Reina and Yukina for jogging. He ran far behind the two girls, struggling to keep up with Reina's intense training. That night, he found himself sleeping beside Reina. On another day, Kita joined their training again. This time, he struggled even more to keep up with the two girls, while Kurumizaka followed them on her bicycle. He pushed himself over and over, until at some point he found himself wide awake, transformed in his mindset. While the girls were still asleep, Kita was out training himself alone on the street. Reina woke up and noticed Kita wasn't in bed beside her. Concerned, she got out of the apartment and found him exercising alone on the street. She decided to join him, and the two began running side by side. The scene shifted to when Yukina met Reina in elementary school at the National Junior Basketball Competition. Reina called Yukina purple hair and challenged her. Yukina responded by calling Reina blonde hair. Then the scene shifted to present time. Yukina woke up and looked at Reina, who was already awake beside her. She noticed that Reina seemed very energetic. Reina was confident because they had a basketball match that day. Kita was in gym class, playing a baseball game with other students. He couldn't hit the ball at all. Maruyama tried to comfort him, saying that most players struggled to hit Rizu's pitches. Then, another male student brought up that their school's girls' basketball team had made it to the all-women's basketball finals. He added that their team's very strong, having reached the nationals every year. Their skill level was far beyond that of other teams. Maruyama seemed interested in this and encouraged Kita to come watch the match. Kita agreed to join him to watch the basketball game. The school's girls' basketball team was set to face off against Kita's classmates and the Idol Research Club, which included Reina Hamasaki, Yukina Hamasaki, Ruri Kurumizaka, Mari Tsutsumi, and Fukuoka. All five of them would compete against the school's girls' basketball team. Reina spoke to Goriki Payson, the leader of the school's girls' team, and asked her to go easy on them. However, Goriki was already aware of Reina and Yukina's skills, knowing they were exceptional players. Reina then brought up Fukuoka, Mari, and Ruri, noting that they were just members of the Idol Research Club, and warned that if Goriki played all out, it would make things very difficult for Reina's team. Goriki agreed to Reina's request, but reminded her that their coach would act as the referee. Because of that, they couldn't afford to lose and would need to give it their all. Goriki urged Reina's team to do their best in the match. Reina acknowledged the challenge and decided they would just go with it and give their best effort. One of Goriki's teammates noticed that the opposing team didn't seem very motivated at all. Goriki quickly reminded her team not to let their guard down, as their coach was watching their performance. The match began. Mari got the ball and passed it to Reina. Reina moved quickly past the opposing team, catching Goriki's attention. Goriki realized her team's mistake in letting their guard down and knew she had to step up her defense to stop Reina from scoring. However, Reina wasn't playing alone. Her team was focused on teamwork. As Reina jumped as if she were going to take a shot, Goriki leaped to block her. At the last moment, Reina passed the ball to Yukina, who had found an open space to shoot. Yukina took a three-point shot and scored. Kida and the other male students cheering from the sidelines celebrated Yukina's impressive shot. Reina praised her for doing an excellent job, saying her three-point shot was exceptional. Kida was amazed, not just by Yukina's ability, but also by Reina's skillful movements. He understood the level of competition, realizing what it meant to face some of the top players in the country, including the ace of the Hamimi. Kunai, who had been passed by Reina, was amazed by Reina and Yukina's teamwork. She wondered why they weren't part of the basketball club. Goriki explained her strategy. She would focus on covering Reina, while Kunai would target Yukina. Kunai agreed to this plan. However, Goriki couldn't help but think that, despite Reina's earlier claim of winging it, their play showed they were determined to win, making things difficult for her team. Goriki taunted Reina, saying she would show her the difference between high school and junior high school basketball. Reina playfully accepted the challenge, stating that she couldn't lose either. The match continued and the score was 21-9 in favor of Goriki's team. Reina's team was losing badly, showing that having just Reina and Yukina on the team wasn't enough to compete against Goriki's strong team. Reina passed the ball to Mary, but Mary made a double dribble. It was clear she didn't know how to play basketball well, and her mistake dragged the team's performance down further. Goriki's team began to look down on Reina's team, considering only Reina and Yukina as real threats, while the other members were essentially out of the running. With the score gap so wide and just 13 minutes remaining, Ruri started to worry. If she didn't change the strategy that relied only on Reina and Yukina, winning would become even more difficult. Ruri approached Mary and whispered something in her ear. The game continued. Reina had the ball but was forced to pass it to Ruri. Goriki laughed as Reina passed the ball to a player who clearly struggled with basic control. However, Ruri surprised everyone by passing the ball far forward toward the Goriki team's basket. Out of nowhere, Mary leaped into the air, adjusting her motion mid-air to change the ball's trajectory. The ball went through the inner ring and scored. Both teams froze, stunned. Mary fixed her glasses and said with confidence that she thought she finally understood basketball now. Reina's teammates cheered and praised her for her impressive score. Goriki was shocked. She couldn't believe that a girl with glasses and a height under 170 centimeters could make a dunk that high, something even boys struggled with. Reina looked at her team and declared that from this point on, it would be a counterattack. Some time before, at the Himimi Junior High School entrance ceremony, Yukina and Reina crossed paths by chance. Both of them remembered that they had once played a basketball game against each other back in elementary school. Reina wondered why Yukina was at Himimi and asked if she had moved to Tokyo. They discovered they both used to play basketball but chose not to join the school's basketball club. Yukina had been injured and couldn't play for a while Reina had her own reasons. At first, Reina jokingly said that if she kept playing basketball, she wouldn't be able to do her nails. When Yukina pushed her on the matter, Reina confessed that she wanted to quit basketball and become Japan's #1 gal. Back to the present, during the basketball match, Reina's team began to level up. Their score started to rise quickly as they began to show unexpected skill. Goriki, watching the change, told her team to focus on defense and prevent Mary from jumping freely. However, her teammates thought this was ridiculous, assuming Mary was just an inexperienced player or an idiot. Goriki quickly realized that the situation was spiraling out of control. Mary, the girl with glasses, was exploiting gaps in the defense and scoring points effortlessly. Not only was she aggressive, but she was also surprisingly agile. Her constant movement and scoring made it clear that her skills couldn't be underestimated. Recognizing the shift in momentum, Goriki changed her strategy. She would now focus on targeting Yukina, who appeared to be worn out from the pressure and the intensity of the game. On Yukina's side, she was struggling to keep up with the pace. The Goriki team was too strong. They maintained calm expressions despite the intense pressure, and there were only 5 minutes left in the game. An opportunity arose when Yukina managed to take the ball away from the opposing team. She and a Goriki team member were running side by side, racing to gain control of the ball. Unfortunately, Yukina slipped and fell to the floor. Her former injury had flared up, causing her to lose her footing. A long time before, Reina was walking home from school when she found Yukina sitting by the riverside, staring at the water. Reina was curious and asked what Yukina was doing. Yukina looked up and simply said she felt like looking at the river. Reina sat beside her and asked why Yukina had quit playing basketball. Yukina took a deep breath and began her story. She explained that she never wanted to start hating basketball. However, her doctor had warned her that if she continued playing, her old injury would only get worse. Even if she trained her strength, she would always risk getting hurt again. She began to wonder if she would eventually grow to resent the sport because of it. On top of that, she added that the idea of high school basketball practice sounded exhausting, and she couldn't do her nails if she played. That thought stuck with her, and she began to see quitting as a good opportunity to step away from basketball. Reina listened to her and complimented her reasoning, saying that high school was the perfect time for focusing on things like nails and self-expression. Reina herself had no plans to play basketball in high school anyway, so it worked out for her. She then urged Yukina to aim to become Japan's #1 gal together. Yukina hesitated, refusing Reina's idea to quit basketball because of her. Reina quickly denied her opinion, explaining that she hadn't intended to join the middle school basketball team either but had only done so because Yukina had pushed her into it. She admitted that it wasn't much fun to play basketball without Yukina by her side. Reina then asked Yukina if they could stay together, along with Ruri too. Yukina felt her throat tighten, as though she were about to cry. However, she thought it would be meaningless to dwell on such feelings. They shared a quiet laugh and made a promise. One day, if Yukina felt like it, they would play basketball together again. Back in the present during the match, Yukina struggled to her feet as Reina came rushing toward her. Reina asked if she was alright. Yukina fixed her clothes and assured her, saying she's fine. She then reminded Reina that there were only 4 minutes left in the game, and they were just 5 points behind. Yukina recalled that the semifinals had ended similarly, and Reina remembered it too. They had lost back then. However, Reina remained optimistic. She looked at Yukina and said with a determined smile that they will win this time. The clock was ticking, and the game ended with just 15 seconds remaining. The final score was 30-32 in favor of Goriki's team. Goriki praised Reina for her impressive performance and apologized, saying she would ensure her team maintained their 2-point lead in the final moments. However, Reina remained determined and told Goriki where she had gone wrong. Reina had made up her mind. She would defeat Goriki and avenge Yukina for that day. With just 9 seconds left, Reina had the ball. She ran at full speed, past 2 members of Goriki's team. With only 3 seconds left, Reina leaped into the air as if she were going to shoot. The Goriki defenders jumped to block her, but it turned out to be a decoy. Reina didn't shoot. Instead, she passed the ball to the wide-open Yukina. In the final second, Yukina took the shot, aiming for a 3-pointer. The ball soared through the air and went in. The game ended with Reina's team as the winners. Maruyama was amazed by the game. When he looked at Kita, he was shocked to find him crying. Maruyama wondered why, and Kita explained that he was just so touched by the game. Maruyama thought to himself that Kita was quite the emotional guy. Goriki approached Reina and Yukina after the match, urging them to join the basketball team. Reina and Yukina exchanged a glance. After a moment, Yukina told Goriki that she was happy to hear that, but it was just impossible because they were both aiming to become Japan's #1 gal. One day, Kita and the girls were playing together when the doorbell suddenly rang. They were curious about who it might be. Ruri asked Kita if he had ordered anything, but he hadn't. Just then, a message arrived on Ruri's phone. It was from Keiichiro Imazumi, Kita's older brother, informing her that their mom was on her way to Kita's apartment. Ruri was surprised by the unexpected news. Meanwhile, the others were still calmly chatting and told her to check the door. Ruri tried to explain that it might be Kita's mom, but they didn't fully understand at first. She repeated herself, and they finally realized what she was saying. The 3 of them were shocked. It seemed unbelievable that Kita's mom was there. To confirm, Kita peeked through the door's peephole and saw that it was really her. Ruri started to panic, blaming that Keiichiro's message had come too late. Reina didn't think it was a big problem. Instead, she saw it as a good opportunity for them to greet Kita's mother. Ruri quickly dismissed the idea and told both Reina and Yukina to hide in the closet, assuring them that she would handle the situation. Yukina, however, couldn't help but wonder what Ruri planned to do. Suddenly, there was a knock on the veranda door. It was Mary waiting outside. Ruri opened the door and thanked her. Without hesitation, Mary lifted Ruri while standing on the veranda railing and then jumped off confidently. This was surprising since Kita's apartment was on the 2nd floor. Yukina was shocked. wondering if Mary had really jumped and whether they would be okay. Reina, on the other hand, was too overwhelmed to think straight. There was simply too much happening. Looking down from the veranda, Kita saw Ruri walking casually on the street below with Mary beside her. Ruri thanked Mary again, and in return, Mary made a playful request for Ruri to come to school wearing twin tails. Ruri agreed. Back in the apartment, Kita stammered as he informed Reina and Yukina that Ruri and Mary were fine. Reina recalled how confident Mary had seemed while standing on the railing and figured she must have been fine all along. Yukina, however, protested, questioning how any of that made sense. The doorbell rang again, and the three of them, Kita, Reina, and Yukina, panicked. Reina and Yukina quickly rearranged the room, hiding their belongings, while Kita tried to tidy up the front area of his apartment. At the same time, Keiichiro was getting dressed, and Reina and Yukina hurried to hide in the closet. However, it turned out that Kita's mother had a spare key to his apartment. She used it to let herself in. Inside, she found Kita cleaning the floor, sweat dripping from his face, and listening to music on his headset. She asked him why he didn't answer the door when she rang the bell. Kita apologized, explaining that he hadn't noticed because he was listening to music. Kita couldn't help but wonder about the sudden visit and mentioned that she could have contacted him first. His mother explained that her air conditioner was broken, and she was worried Kita might suffer a heat stroke, just like she often did in her own room. As she spoke, she accidentally bumped her toe against the sofa. Wincing in pain, she tried to brush it off, insisting that she was fine. Kita's mother wondered if he had been keeping his room tidy as she had told him. Kita assured her that he had. As she scanned the room, her eyes landed on the open screen door leading to the veranda, where Reina and Yukina's belongings were hidden. Concerned that bugs might get in, she started walking toward the door. Kita quickly stopped her by grabbing her shoulder. Surprised, his mother asked what he was doing. Kita told her to sit down, reminding her that she might hit her toes on the furniture again. She brushed off his concern, insisting she was fine, and urged him to let her close the screen door. Kita, however, firmly refused, saying he liked it open and that it was fine as it was. Reina and Yukina whispered to each other inside the closet. Reina blamed Yukina, saying she should have at least closed the screen door. Yukina defended herself, explaining that she was in a hurry and didn't have time. As they argued, a commotion broke out between them, and a clack noise was heard. Kita's mother was startled, and Kita immediately panicked. She quickly walked toward the closet, and though Kita tried to stop her, he couldn't hold her back. She suspected Kita had hidden trash and scraps in the closet to keep the room looking clean. Kita denied it, but his mother was persistent, insisting that the noise must have been something falling inside. Confidently, she opened the closet, claiming she could see through any of his tricks. However, when she looked inside, she found the closet neat and tidy, completely unaware that two girls were hiding there. Kita stood frozen, amazed at both the unexpected miracle and his mother's confidence in what had just unfolded before him. Kita's mother found it strange. He didn't need to clean everything at the last minute, yet he had clearly been panicked over something she couldn't figure out. Just then, the doorbell rang again. Kita went to open the door and found Ruri standing there. Acting shy, Ruri greeted Kita and thanked him for lending her his gym clothes while handing him a small bag. Hearing voices, Kita's mother asked who it was. Ruri, still acting, nervously wondered aloud if it might be Kita's mother. Kita confirmed it was. Ruri introduced herself politely, mentioning that she was in the same class as Kita, and explaining that she had come to return the gym clothes she had borrowed. Continuing her act, Ruri added that she wouldn't be going to school on Monday, so she decided to return the clothes on Saturday or Sunday. She then asked if she had come at a bad time. Kita, playing along, assured her it wasn't a problem at all. Kita's mother warmly invited Ruri inside for a drink, though she warned her that the air conditioner was broken. Ruri happily accepted, saying she was thirsty anyway. After apologizing for the intrusion, Ruri sat with Kita's mother in Kita's room. She took the opportunity to show off some sample cosmetic products from her father's company and offered Kita's mother a chance to try them. Kita's mother praised Ruri for working so hard at her age. Meanwhile, Reina and Yukina, still hiding in the closet, grew jealous upon hearing Ruri being complimented by Kita's mother. Ruri, continuing her act, casually wondered if Kita really lived alone. Kita confirmed it, prompting his mother to explain further. She admitted that her son was as feminine as he looked, which is why they decided to have him live alone, hoping it would help him become more independent and resilient. Ruri agreed with Kita's mother's opinion but added her own perspective. She said that Kita's gentle nature was one of his good points. Because of that, she continued, Kita could relate to other people's weaknesses and emotional pain, making him a kind-hearted person. Ruri then asked Kita's mother if that wasn't actually a good thing. Ruri's last words hit Kita's mother hard. Her mind drifted back to the time when Kita's father had decided to let Kita live on his own. She had opposed the idea at first, but Kita's father was firm. He insisted that Kita needed to live alone to improve his personality and become more independent. When she tried to argue further, Kita's father cut her off, claiming that she and Keiichiro spoiled Kita too much and that, if it continued, Kita would never learn to stand on his own feet. Seeing Kita's mother lost in thought, Ruri grew more confident, believing she had made a strong point. It turned out she was right. Kita's mother smiled and praised Ruri, calling her a good girl. She even added that she hoped Kita would find a girlfriend like Ruri someday. Kita's mother prepared to leave, saying she had only stopped by to check on how Kita was doing. She teased that if she stayed any longer, Kita wouldn't be able to ask Ruri out. After she left, Ruri playfully asked Kita if he really was planning to ask her out. Kita was just relieved the situation was finally over, but Ruri was clearly pleased with herself for earning Kita's mother's favor. Suddenly, Reina burst out of the closet, furious. She was angry at Ruri for using the opportunity to flatter Kita's mother and making it seem like it was her moment to shine. Meanwhile, on the street below, Kita's mother glanced back up at Kita's apartment. Judging by Kita's behavior, she thought to herself that Ruri might not be just a friend. Proud of her insight, she turned around only to walk straight into an electric pole. Kita and the girls were having dinner together. The girls had been waiting for him outside his apartment. They hadn't decided where to eat yet. Yukina suggested ramen, Reina thought it was a good idea, and Ruri proposed going back to the place they visited last time. As he walked with them, Kita couldn't help but notice how the three girls stood out, drawing everyone's attention. Their presence was vibrant, a stark contrast to his unassuming nature. He recalled a conversation with his mother earlier. She had mentioned Ruri, unaware of Kita's special relationship with all three girls. She assumed Kita liked Ruri, and said Ruri was cute, so cute, in fact, that other boys would surely pursue her. She encouraged Kita to do his best, warning that if he let his guard down, someone else might win her over. Even though his mother didn't know the truth, her words lingered in his mind. Kita found himself glancing at Ruri, lost in thought. The girls didn't seem to notice his distraction. When Reina asked if Raymond was fine with him, he gave a quick notice in response. They started walking ahead, but Kita remained dazed, staring after them. Reina noticed he was falling behind and called out, urging him to catch up. As they walked together, a couple of female students recognized Reina and approached them. Politely, they asked for permission to take a picture with her. Reina agreed, as long as Yukina was okay with it. Yukina casually gestured that she didn't mind. The three of them, Reina, Yukina, and the students, shared a warm conversation, laughing and smiling. Kita watched in silence, amazed by the interaction. When the students eventually left, he noticed how happy they seemed. It was as if meeting Reina and Yukina felt like a miracle to them. He also overheard them wondering about him, speculating if he might be Reina's brother or something. Kita and the girls arrived at the store that sold Ruri's father's cosmetic products. Ruri greeted the shopkeeper warmly, thanking them for their hard work and asking how the sales of the new product were going. The shopkeeper explained that the sales were excellent. As a gesture of gratitude, Ruri handed the shopkeeper a small present. Yukina looked at Ruri thoughtfully, wondering how she could always be so dependable when it came to things like this. Reina agreed and even admitted that sometimes she wondered how old Ruri really was. Curious, they turned to Kita and asked for his opinion about Ruri. Kita was still dazed, stammering as he tried to respond. Kita and the girls had a great time at karaoke. To everyone's surprise, Yukina was an excellent singer, while Reina's style was unique. Despite the contrast in their singing abilities, they were all enjoying themselves, having fun without a care. Watching them, Kita couldn't help but admire their talent and how effortlessly they shone, even when singing. His own sense of self grew smaller in comparison. After finishing their karaoke session, the girls casually chatted about their performances and singing styles. As Kita listened, a thought crossed his mind. He already knew it, but it hit him again. The girls were genuinely talented. It all came back to him, the way they would suddenly show up at his house, their playful teasing, and how things would sometimes go too far, crossing boundaries. Deep down, he felt that he didn't truly fit in with them. He was aware of the fact that he wasn't much more than a passive presence in their lives, almost like a pet to them. He knew he had to work harder, but doubt lingered. Would there ever come a day when he could confidently walk alongside them without feeling so out of place? He realized he didn't share their talents or strength. The thought lingered as they laughed and shared stories. As Kita was lost in thought while walking, his foot slipped on a manhole cover, and he fell to the ground. He lay there for a moment, wondering what he was even doing with his life. A couple of students passed by, and one of the male students commented aloud, saying it was the first time he'd ever seen someone wipe out on a manhole cover. He laughed about it, and Kita could sense that he almost felt bad for him. Kita wondered if it was true after all. It seemed natural for people to see him as nothing more than a joke. The girls had noticed the commotion and acted quickly. Ruri scribbled something on a sheet of paper and passed it to Yukina, who then passed it to Reina. Reina discreetly placed the note in front of the male student without the others noticing. The note read, "I'm a poop man. I don't wash my ass." Kita saw all of this unfold and was amazed by how quick-witted and coordinated the girls were. Their teamwork and ability to act on a whim were on another level. As soon as they had executed their prank, the three of them started laughing uncontrollably together. Kita couldn't help but stare, both in awe and disbelief. Reina tried to ease Kita's mind, saying that there were far worse people out there, and that he shouldn't worry about what that poop man said. Kita nodded in agreement, but Reina noticed his head was still down. She asked if he was still bothered by the incident and advised him to ignore that kind of thing entirely. However, it wasn't as simple as Reina thought. Kita's mood wasn't dampened by the prank alone. It was about everything. It was about him and the girls, their bond, and his own feelings. He admitted that he often wondered if being around them was more of an inconvenience to the girls than he thought. Reina hesitated, still wondering if Kita was emotionally affected by that poop man nonsense. Kita quickly dismissed her assumption and continued his explanation. He told her that after spending months with these girls, he had spent countless time thinking about his place among them. These girls were so amazing, so cool, confident, and inspiring that he still couldn't believe they were his classmates. Compared to them, he felt ordinary, as though he didn't have anything special. He found himself comparing himself to them and thought that, no matter how it looked, spending time with these girls felt unnatural to him. The girls were surprised by Kita's words. They didn't know how to respond to such an honest perspective from him. Ruri flicked his forehead, scolding him for having such low self-esteem. Kita winced, confused, and wondered why Ruri had done that. Ruri then told him that even if he wanted to leave her side, he couldn't. Kita looked at her in awe. Reina wasn't surprised by Ruri's direct approach. Instead, she teased Kita in her own way, saying she would make love with him so much that he'd forget all the petty problems of the world. But for now, she urged him to eat ramen with them. The girls ended up casually debating which was better, Ruri's heartfelt speech or Reina's bold approach. They laughed and teased each other as they walked toward their destination. Kita got up, thanking them for their kind words, and they all went to have dinner together. As they laughed and shared the moment, Kita couldn't help but lose himself in thought again. He wasn't sure when he would be able to walk with confidence by their side, but he knew one thing: he would try his best until that day came. A mysterious organization operates under the guise of an idol research group. Yukina Sasaki, a respected member, wonders if Koharu Marcus, a character, really died, and whether Koharu Fudebayashi, the best-selling manga author and group member, plans to bring him back later in the story. Koharu simply replies that she won't. Yukina is surprised by this decision, while Reina admires Koharu's talent, acknowledging how unusual it is to be a successful mangaka while still in high school. Koharu admits that working on a monthly manga schedule is surprisingly manageable. She then points out some online news showing that Yukina's brother is involved in yet another double affair. Koharu asks if Yukina plans to do anything about her brother's behavior. Reina and Yukina express their concerns, but Yukina avoids saying whether she'll act. Koharu advises her to be stricter with him, warning that his actions could cause trouble for Yukina too. Yukina wonders how it could affect her. Koharu explains that a reporter aiming to stir up more controversy might target her as the younger sister. Yukina dismisses the idea, reasoning that her status as a magazine model likely shields her from such attention. Even so, Koharu warns Yukina to be mindful of her actions in public. Yukina agrees to take Koharu's advice seriously. Ruri tells Reina and Yukina to get going and bids farewell to the rest of the group. Before Yukina leaves, Koharu asks if she's happy with how things are now. Yukina senses something unusual about Koharu's question, feeling like she's heard it before. She wonders if something is going on. Koharu brushes it off, saying it's nothing and that she was just asking because it might make a good reference for her plot. With a big smile, Yukina assures Koharu that she is happy. Ruri, Rina, and Yukina then leave. Koharu watches them until they disappear down the school alley. Once they're gone, she heads back inside. Mary approaches and gives Koharu an update. She reports that, as usual, a cameraman has been secretly taking photos of the Kida family. Mary finds it odd, but admits it makes it easier for their group to move around unnoticed. Koharu was growing annoyed. She insists they put an end to it soon. The mission to stop the cameraman begins. Iguchi arrives at the marked building, and Koharu asks for the target's exact location. Iguchi reports that the cameraman is on the 3rd floor near the right staircase. Koharu acknowledges the report and orders the team in the field to move. The cameraman is secretly observing the Kida family's apartment. After some time without success, he decides to give up. He had considered targeting Kida's younger sister, a magazine model, hoping to stir up controversy. However, he rethinks it, concluding that being a model is ordinary and not worth reporting. He looks at a photo on his camera showing Kida walking with 3 girls. For some reason, he finds himself unable to look away from it. Shaking off the distraction, he decides he can't waste any more time on them. As he prepares to leave, he hears faint footsteps. Taking precautions, he moves up to the 4th floor and plans to escape via the left staircase. Koharu, coordinating the mission, alerts the field team that the target has moved to the 4th floor and is likely heading for the left staircase. Mary receives the update and quickly devises a plan for a pincer attack. She positions herself at the left end of the 4th floor corridor, while Iguchi moves to block the right end. When the cameraman spots Mary, her strong and sharp demeanor immediately puts him on edge. His intuition screams to stay away from her. As he tries to turn and retreat, he finds Iguchi blocking his path from behind. With no other option, he climbs down, realizing he can't use the staircase to escape. Reaching the street, he feels confident he's managed to evade their chase. What he doesn't anticipate is the schoolgirl with glasses, Mary, leaping down from the 4th floor to intercept him. Iguchi, unable to match her daring move, remains above. Suddenly, a man steps out of a nearby car. Together, he and Mary corner the cameraman on the street. Mary calmly addresses him, offering a choice. They can do this the hard way or the easy way. She makes it clear she prefers to avoid violence, urging him to quietly get into the car. The interrogation begins, with Mary calmly assuring Ryunosuke Yumiki that no harm will come to him. She reveals she already knows much about him, a former self-defense force officer turned journalist, now working more like a freelance paparazzi. She notes his surprisingly comfortable lifestyle and wonders aloud if he often secures spicy material. Yumeki, feeling uneasy under Mary's sharp gaze and subtle pressure, wonders how she obtains so much information about him. Mary proceeds with a warning. She orders him to stay away from Yukina Sasaki and to stop investigating Kida Imezumi. Her tone grows cold as she threatens dire consequences if he continues his behavior. Yumeki falls silent, thinking back to a rumor he heard years ago among gossip journalists. The story spoke of a junior high school girl who took down delinquent gangs one by one. It was said that she belonged to a family that had operated behind the scenes since the Edo period, with rumors claiming their blood carried demonic power. Though he had dismissed it as absurd, he remembers the name of that family. After a moment, Yumeki agrees to back off but asks for one thing in return: her name. Mary obliges, introducing herself as Tsutsumi Shinri. Hearing the name, Yumeki sighs and admits he was planning to drop the case anyway. Mary is relieved and concludes the meeting amicably. She instructs Jack, another club member, to escort Yumeki home. Before he leaves, she hands him a stack of papers as a token of gratitude for cooperating. Curious, Yumeki reads the papers on his way home and is taken aback by their content, wondering who these people truly are. With a cool demeanor, Mary cryptically tells him that she cannot reveal too much for him. At the Idol research group, Koharu thanked Mary and praised her daring efforts. She admitted being amazed by Mary's leap from the 4th floor. Iguchi voiced his concern, asking if they were sure about not informing the queen. Koharu confidently dismissed the idea, explaining that if the queen discovered a paparazzi had been watching them, she'd likely be shocked. Koharu didn't want her to worry about it, especially since the incident wasn't directly related to her school life or the Imezumi family. To keep things simple, she suggested framing the incident as an automatic defense system taking action. Mary, curious, asked if the operation was prompted by Yukina Sasaki. Koharu casually revealed to the room that, the day before, she had asked Yukina if she was happy with how things were. Yukina had shyly confirmed it, wearing an expression Koharu had never seen before. This, Koharu explained, was why they needed to eliminate any threats to Yukina's happiness as swiftly as possible, regardless of the methods required. She went on to emphasize that they owed Yukina a debt they could never fully repay. Just then, Ko Takami, the president of the Idol Research Group, entered, proudly showing off a sexy nurse outfit she had just finished creating. Both Koharu and Mary were genuinely impressed by their president's skills. One night, Ruri was sleeping between Kida and Reina. When she woke up, she noticed Reina was a restless sleeper. Reina was talking in her sleep, and it seemed like she was dreaming about Kida touching her. Ruri couldn't stand it anymore and covered Reina's face with a pillow. Reina woke up angry. At the IDOF research group, Ruri expressed her concern and said she wanted to move out of Kida's apartment. She felt it was too cramped for 4 people to share the space. Mary suggested moving to an apartment in a building owned by Ruri's father. Ruri knew there was a room available there, but she worried the girls couldn't keep it a secret from Kida's parents. Without a solid reason to justify the move, it would be difficult to make it happen. Koharu overheard Ruri's concerns and realized that if they could come up with a valid reason, they could move and solve the problem. Ruri agreed with her. When Ruri returned to Kida's apartment, she overheard him on the phone. From the conversation, she learned that they had to leave the apartment due to urban development. Although they had been warned this might happen in a few years, Kida hadn't expected it to happen so soon. Hearing this, Ruri's eyes lit up with excitement. She thought to herself how incredibly lucky this timing was. She immediately suggested that Kida move to an apartment in the building owned by her father. She explained that it was more spacious than his current place. At first, Kida hesitated, worrying that the rent might be higher, which would make it difficult since their parents would likely object. However, Ruri reassured him not to worry. She would ask her father to lower the rent to make it cheaper than what they were currently paying. Reina and Yukina praised Ruri, calling her Lady Ruri, marveling at how effortlessly she solved problems. They thought it was really cool. Despite their excitement, Kida was still reluctant. He felt that reducing the rent for such a large, spacious apartment would be a huge favor, and he wasn't sure about accepting it. But Ruri brushed off his concerns, insisting it was fine and adding that she also wanted to live there. Hearing this, the other girls were thrilled and couldn't wait to check out the rooms. Ruri felt confident that this was a great idea. On Sunday, Kida and the 3 girls visited the apartment Ruri had mentioned. It was a tall building. Yukina wondered if it was the same place where Reina's older sister, Lisa, lived. Ruri confirmed and added that their room would be right next to Lisa's. Kida asked who Lisa was, wondering if she was the older sister Reina had mentioned before. Reina confirmed and explained that Ruri was renting a room to her sister at an extremely low price. Reina then asked Ruri if, since she was earning a decent amount of money, she couldn't just charge Lisa the original rent. Ruri brushed it off, joking that she was merciless when it came to Lisa. Yukina chimed in, pointing out that Ruri could be just as merciless with others sometimes. Kida and the girls entered the apartment. Yukina compared it to Lisa's place and noted that it wasn't much different. Meanwhile, Kida was kneeling on the floor, overwhelmed. He couldn't believe there was any way the rent for such a spacious place could be cheaper than their current apartment. It seemed unreal. As he looked around, he noticed that, in addition to the living room, there were 2 more rooms. This only added to his disbelief. Ruri dismissed his concerns, telling him not to sweat the small details. However, Kida couldn't stop worrying. It all felt like too much. Despite his hesitation, Ruri had already made up her mind. There was nothing he could say or do to change it. With the preparations for moving complete, about a month passed. As Kida prepared to leave the apartment for the last time, memories flooded back. He recalled the day he first brought the girls home. They had teased him playfully, and so much had happened in this place since then. Now those 3 girls were waiting for him outside, ready to move on to their new home together. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Lisa, Reina's older sister, received 2 messages on her phone. The first informed her that the girls would soon be living in the apartment next to hers. The second was a warning not to touch Kida. It had been a week since Kida moved into his new apartment. While the girls were having a meeting in another room, Kida enjoyed a cup of ramen alone. He recalled Ruri's advice before they moved in. If Lisa ever came over, he shouldn't open the door. Kida thought pretending not to be home wasn't polite and decided that if Lisa did come, he would greet her. He also wondered what kind of person Reina's older sister was. Kida had just drifted off for a nap when a commotion woke him. Lisa, Reina's sister, had indeed come over. but the girls didn't seem happy to see her. Ignoring their protests, Lisa forced her way inside and entered Kita's room. She greeted Kita, who was still half asleep, and her boldness caught him off guard. Leaning closer, she complimented him on his baby face. Then she noticed Yukina napping nearby. Yukina stirred awake, confused about why Lisa was there. Lisa, equally puzzled, confirmed with Yukina that they were all living there as Reina had mentioned. After Yukina confirmed it, Lisa asked if they were doing it every day in that room. Kita tried to respond, but before he could say anything, Lisa cut him off, saying she didn't need his explanation, she would figure it out herself. Just then, Reina appeared and playfully locked Lisa in her arms. She challenged Lisa but was met with a denial of any issue. Instead, Lisa joked about wanting to join them, but Reina firmly refused and dismissed the idea. Kita, still bewildered, asked Yukina to confirm if this was indeed Lisa, Reina's older sister. Yukina nodded and then wondered aloud if Lisa was serious about joining them. Reina sharply brushed her off and urged Yukina to help her kick Lisa out. At that moment, Ruri woke up. With a snap of her fingers, she calmly but firmly ordered Lisa to go home. Surprisingly, Lisa apologized and left without further resistance. After she was gone, Kita reflected on the encounter and thought to himself that Lisa was truly a lively person. After that, Lisa walked away in disappointment. At first, she planned to buy a drink for herself, but then she got the idea to have another drink while chatting with the girls. When she arrived at Kita's apartment, she found Kita alone. Surprised to see her and noticing she smelled of alcohol, Kita hesitated, but Lisa casually excused herself and went inside. The girls had another meeting. Ruri was worried. She had warned Lisa earlier not to touch Kita, but she still couldn't trust her. Reina agreed, stating that Lisa couldn't be trusted. Even if Lisa decided not to act on her impulses, everything could change once she started drinking. Yukina confirmed this, adding that Lisa seemed to find Kita a little cute and might act on a drunken whim. Reina continued, saying Lisa probably believed she could handle any situation with sheer momentum, even if something happened with Kita. Yukina agreed wholeheartedly. Yukina also noted that their relationship with Kita felt somewhat like being friends with benefits, so when Lisa said she wanted to join in last time, it probably wasn't entirely a joke. Yukina asked Reina if she could do something about her sister. Reina reassured them that as long as Lisa didn't drink at Kita's apartment, everything should be fine. Ruri thought about the situation repeatedly. To her, it would be easier if Lisa just disappeared. Reina, shocked, asked Ruri to stop, saying it wouldn't be funny, even as a joke. Ruri felt a little confident that things were under control since she had already told Kita not to open the door if Lisa showed up. However, Reina doubted Kita's ability to pretend he wasn't home, given his personality. Ruri initially disagreed, but after some thought, wondered if Reina might be right. Yukina suggested that as long as one of them was with Kita, he'd be fine since he was kind and accommodating. Ruri agreed, deciding that their strategy for now would be simple: never leave Kita alone and make sure Lisa didn't drink. Reina and Yukina fully supported this plan. However, Yukina suddenly pointed out a problem. Kita was currently alone at the apartment, and Lisa might already be drinking. The girls hurried to Kita's apartment, with Ruri leading the way, followed by Reina and Yukina. When they arrived, Ruri hesitated before opening the door, only to find Lisa's shoes in the entryway. They felt like fools, but it was already too late. When they went inside, they saw Lisa was on the sofa, playfully interacting with Kita. Those three girls was burned with anger towards Lisa. After a moment, Ruri tried to calm herself and asked Lisa what was going on. Lisa laughed innocently, saying she couldn't resist. She knew the girls had been having fun every night playing together, and it made her excited. She wanted to join in too. Kita, realizing he might be in trouble, tried to slide away quietly. But Ruri caught him, declaring that she would be the one to play with him, along with Reina as well. While the three were playing, Yukina struck up a conversation with Lisa as they watched. Yukina asked Lisa how long she had been interested in Kita. Lisa admitted that after hearing the girls refer to Kita as just a plaything, she thought it wouldn't matter if she had her turn with him, and things just sort of happened. But that wasn't what Yukina meant. She clarified that she was asking if Lisa had made a move on Kita because she liked him to some extent, and if so, when that started. Lisa began her story, recalling an incident from a few weeks earlier. She had been hanging out with friends when, by chance, she saw Kita walking by with his friends. She recognized him immediately. Excusing herself from her friend, she decided to follow him. Lisa was a little tired but determined to talk to Kita. She followed him as he walked with his friends, Maruyama and Iguchi. Along the way, Maruyama made a request. He wanted Kita to sing Heady Snow at karaoke that day. Kita politely declined, explaining that the song was a bit difficult for him. However, Maruyama insisted, saying he just wanted to hear Kita sing it. Iguchi found the request strange and asked what kind of demand that was. Maruyama, undeterred, simply repeated that he wanted to hear Kita's Heavy Snow. Kita struggled to refuse and was about to agree to Maruyama's request when Iguchi stepped in, pointing out that Maruyama was pressuring him. Kita quickly tried to smooth things over, reassuring them that he wasn't bothered at all. As Lisa observed Kita's behavior, she concluded that he was the type to always say yes, a genuinely kind person. As they walked, Kita stepped on some trash. He paused, picked it up, and put it in his bag. Maruyama, puzzled, asked why Kita was suddenly picking up trash on the road. Kita explained that it was on the ground, but before he could finish, Maruyama interrupted, asking if he always walked around looking for trash. Kita innocently replied that he didn't, but he felt like he should at least pick up the trash he stepped on. Maruyama told him that if he kept picking up trash like that, there'd be no end to it. Kita agreed but insisted on dealing with the piece he'd stepped on. Then he asked if he could bring the trash to karaoke. Iguchi jokingly reassured him that if it came to that, Maruyama would eat the trash, so there was nothing to worry about. This sparked yet another round of bickering between Iguchi and Maruyama. Lisa let out a few giggles as she watched their interaction. Kita and his friends noticed, causing her to stop and turn away, trying to hide her amusement. In her mind, she wondered what was up with Kita carrying a trash bag around. She thought he was a little too self-conscious, but she also understood that Kita was simply being himself. Despite his timid demeanor, she realized he was surprisingly the type to speak his mind when it mattered. Back in the present, while Yukina was talking with Lisa, Lisa fell asleep midway through her story. When she woke up briefly, she started rambling nonsensically. As Lisa sobered up slightly, they began to wonder if Ruri and Reina were finished with their game.